Hey everyone, welcome back to building an iOS app in 14 days. I'm Connor, an iOS developer, and in this series, I'm walking you through building an iOS app in just 14 days, all with AI, staying hands off the code as much as possible. Today's video, we are going to be polishing up our app Whisper, getting it ready for the App Store. By the end of this video, you're going to have a good idea of what to be looking for and how to go through the last final checks and testing phases of your app before you submit it to the App Store, helping it be ready and help it to get approved on the App Store. So just as a quick little recap, our app that we are building is called Whisper. It is an AI-powered journal app helping people build the habit of journaling so that they can slowly improve their mental health. Every day you can record a journal entry, track your mood with it. AI does some analysis and you use your voice to record the journal entry, AI transcribes it, and then performs a sentiment analysis to suggest what mood you may be feeling based on the journal entry. So I have gone through and spent some time making a list of things that we should polish from our app. So let's go over that list and talk about why each of these is important, so that you can get a feel for what I'm looking for as far as polish goes and how we can help this be accepted to the App Store quicker. We don't want to get rejected because it just slows down the process. So the first thing I did, in order to make this list, right, I've suggested before that as you're building each feature, you should go ahead and keep a list of things that you're going to want to change or clean up or tidy up at a later date. Today is that later date. So we've gone through and took 3 separate days to build out each feature, such as the journal recording, the calendar, and the streaks feature. So we've had a running list going, and then I deleted the app, reinstalled it, and used it for the first time as if I was a new user getting a feel for this. I recommend doing this on your phone or on your actual device, whether it's phone, iPad, whatever you're building for, so you can actually have the app in your hand. If you don't have one, no worries. You can do it on the simulator just as well. The phone just gives you the more complete experience. So to start, we're going to delete the app and do a quick walkthrough so I can show you all why I made the notes that I did. Okay, so we've got a fresh install of Whisper on the simulator, and this is our onboarding, the first screen the user sees when they download the app. So we want to go through this and kind of review it. This is just to help them get familiar with what the app is and how it works. Remember, this is just first version, so none of this needs to be perfect, but we just want to catch some things that might have errors or cause confusion or uncertainty for your user. We want them to have a positive experience with this app, right? So we've introduced it. We're going to get started. We're going to have them answer some questions. What do you want from Whisper? Well, I want to build a habit of journaling. You usually check in every morning, and then we're going to hit continue, and then now we need their microphone permission. So we're just going to get this out of the way, allow microphone, and they're going to be brought to the microphone screen to test this. So the first note that I made was that the microphone access and speech cues should be requested on the screen that requested them. Because you'll see here, once I hit this record button, then it's going to ask us for permission. But if we're asking them to allow the microphone on the previous screen, that's when we should have the iOS pop-ups requesting permission. So we want to change that instead of having it happen here. And then we're going to do a test journal entry. It's listening to my voice right now to see how I feel, and I'm feeling pretty happy because I'm excited that we're about to get this on the App Store. So I'll stop that. The next note I made is that waveform animation could be a little bit better. We don't want to spend too much time on it, but I want it to look like it's actually doing something instead of just existing. And you can see the transcription worked. I can also play back the journal entry. You won't be able to hear it because I'm not recording my device audio, but I can hear it just fine. So we'll hit continue. It's going to track our mood, and then it's supposed to select a mood here, but it did not. So I said mood selection needs to be more prominent in onboarding, because in the testing I did, I went on the type only route. But it looks like for the voice one, we're not even selecting a mood. So ensure mood selection happens after first onboarding recording. Okay. So we've got a note there. So when they do that, they select the mood. It updates their streaks. We want to make sure the streak modal is accurate. Ensure streak modal shows day 1. We want to make sure it shows day 1, and then they get our pop-up. So they've already done their first day, right? Their first journal entry. And then we're going to show them, hey, if you pay for our app, you get unlimited journal entries, the full history, and you get, the full streaks feature. I had someone point out on Twitter, which I was very grateful for, is that these both say no trials, and it's kind of confusing because like this isn't really reflective of that. The button does what we want, right? A free trial only on the yearly plan, but weekly should not have a free trial. But this both should not say no trial. So I made a note to fix that, which is right here. So we need to get rid of the no trial text there. And then this is some extra text here. This is redundant of this here. So we'll want to clean that up. So this is just a little bit more concise. And then if we continue with weekly plan, we see that it does work. So we want to go stay on starter. And then my next note was of these little banners. This is not a necessary change. This is totally fine. But I think these maybe make sense in a different context, or I'm considering just removing them altogether because they're not the most helpful. And it's kind of a little bit of friction before you get into the app. So maybe there's a better idea there. So I made a note about that. But we'll kind of see how that goes. And then also, one quick note on the paywall too. I want to make sure that the restore purchases button works. I clicked it, nothing happened. So I want to make sure that that actually works. So if they are a returning user that already has a subscription, we should be able to access that existing subscription so they don't have to pay twice. And then rethink the banners. And then we want to make sure the entries count is correct, right? This is showing 2, but this is a fresh install. We've only done 1 entry on onboarding. So why is the count 2 here? That's probably a bug. We're going to want to fix that. And then I did the or type instead flow, and it brings up this new entry screen, which is great. But the record button is prominent, right? And we have the or type instead again, which is not super clear. It's a little bit confusing, and it's not, at least not what I prefer. So I think want to change that. I'm going to explore a couple ideas with Codex to see what other options we have here in a way that makes more sense, right? Maybe if they click this, we don't show the recording thing and we focus this and the keyboard pops up or something else. But I want that to make more sense because we want them to still have the option to type, but we don't want it to be confusing when they press that. The next thing is I noticed when viewing a journal entry, I think they should have the opportunity to edit a journal entry. My thought is that they should only be able to edit an entry that was made that same day. So within like the last 24 hours or within the same like calendar day. But I don't know that it makes sense to edit past journal entries for our app. Like I'm envisioning the user experience that we're wanting to create. They're doing a new entry every day. They're being honest about tracking their mood so they can actively improve that over time. And going back and changing it in the past doesn't really make sense, but a 24-hour grace period in case you misspoke or there was a typo or something you wanted to add, I think is appropriate here. So we're going to want to make sure that available to the user. Again, some of these things can be in version 2, but these were just my first impressions of a rerun of the app and things I've been thinking about as we've been building that I want to make sure are polished out before we submit, right? We've still got a few more days in this series. We are going to need to do App Store screenshots. We're going to need to let App Store review that. We want to get some probably marketing material set up so that we can be promoting our app. But because we have a few more days in this 14-day challenge, I'm going to do a little bit of extra polish here. The next screen that we are reviewing is the calendar screen. So here to me, these blank dots don't really make sense. So I think we should just go ahead and remove those because in the past, if there's not a mood selected, we don't show anything. So why would we show something if there's not one selected for the future? That was the main revision. Otherwise, the screen I think is pretty good, pretty standard detailed view screen. And then stats. So overall, I would like to make this streak and stats feature way more comprehensive, something to do with mood and maybe a chart or something that's more helpful. But this is just version 1, so we're just going to clean up the UI here, which I think these are way too spaced apart because this is hidden behind the tab bar. And this is not so much information that the users should have to scroll and see what's going on. So we're just going to clean this UI up a little bit and make this a little bit more useful potentially. The other thing that I realized we probably forgot was notifications. So depending on the length of this video, we may add notifications or we may push that to another day. But if we're having streaks, we should probably have notifications for retention. If we don't ship with that, totally fine though. We can do that later. So those are the main things we're going to be cleaning up with this app. So in order to do that, we're going to go back to Codex and get to working on that. So I am going to make a plan with Codex before it starts coding, because things we don't want to do, right? We don't want to give it this list and say, just fix them, because it's going to make probably wrong decisions. It's going to take forever. It may break things. That's just the nature of AI. What we want it to do is fix these one by one so we can review quickly and move on to the next one. That's a much faster and smoother process overall. And then the other thing I want to do is potentially make a plan of what of these are most important for our MVP. So actually, I'm going to put these all in our chat that we designed the app with in ChatGPT before we go into Codex. Okay, so we are back in our chat where we created the majority of this app. We've designed it, we've gone over the features and kind of broken everything down back in that same chat. I have a list of all the revisions here in this prompt inside ChatGPT. And I said I have a list of revisions I have from the app right before we submit to the App Store. I want you to help me prioritize these in the order of what you think is most essential for an MVP. The perk and point of doing this is a time-saving tactic. Right? You've got 14 days to ship. It's going to take you a couple hours a day to be building on this. And you want to make sure you hit your deadline because you've set a goal for yourself. And our goal is for you to actually meet that goal. And so the list we have here and the list of polish, this is where a lot of the scope creep happens, where your timelines slip, or things take longer, or you lose momentum on your project. This is the exact reason why I said we should be keeping a list of polish items throughout the entire build process instead of addressing them one by one as we go. So before you know it, you're a month or two in, and then you lose momentum, life happens, and your app never gets shipped. We don't want that to happen because we can do this in 14 days with just a couple hours a day. So we have our list of polish items, and we need to prioritize what's essential for the App Store because we want to increase our chances of being approved and being live on the App Store, making money as soon as possible. So ChatGPT here has helped me prioritize what is probably most important for today. What is the polish items we need before we submit to the App Store? The first thing it said is that we request mic and speech recognition on the screen that uses them. So this is what I meant earlier by this may not have the context of our app and why I'm a little weary of this method, but just being aware of your app as we've worked to do is helpful in this case because we know we're asking for permissions. We know it's working. But this is why it probably flagged this as number one, is because it thinks we're not doing that based on my note that was not very descriptive. Be more descriptive with these. It's going to be helpful when you're prompting. The next thing is to ensure mood selection happens right after the first onboarding recording. This is definitely important because this is a broken feature. So we want to make sure that the user doesn't feel confused or uncertain when they get to the screen. We want to make sure that works. The next part is to make the mood selection more visually prominent in onboarding. This ties right into that one, right? Right now it's just a thin blue border, and that's not quite enough to actually see that it is being selected. The next is the streak modal accuracy. We want to make sure that their streaks are being counted correctly, and so it doesn't show day 2 when they've just downloaded the app for the first time. The next is paywall clarity. So we want to make sure the restore button working. That's critically important. We want the wording to be very clear there. If it's not clear and it's confusing, we'll likely get rejected or at least have frustrated users. So we definitely need to get that out of the way. And then the next two are make sure that the entry's use counter is correct, right? We don't want the users to be confused if that's incorrect. And then remove the placeholder dots on the calendar. This is just a polish thing. It's going to be really quick. Delete a couple lines of code and we'll be good to go there. These are the non-blocking things that are nice to have, and probably will help with retention, but we don't need to fix them right now. So the first thing is the daily notifications. This is a retention driver, which is important for our app, right? If we want to make actual money, but we don't need it. And this might take us some time. So we'll have to put a pin in that potentially for now. Next, the or type instead flow rework. The flow doesn't make sense, which is fine. We're going to want to fix the flow a little bit, but reworking the entire feature may be out of scope just to ship. So we'll consider that when we get there. And then the next few things are edit entries on the same day. This is just kind of a nice to have thing, but also not required. This is another just kind of confusion, the launch banners. So that's kind of iffy. And then the usefulness of the stat screen. And then this is a tertiary list. So the waveform animation, right? That's not crucial. And we could spend a lot of time fine tuning that, but what we have is also fine. And then the center text under plan options, which is just some visual polish, but it's not going to break anything. So now we've got a good idea of how we want to prioritize these things. So we're going to go through and start checking them off. So we're going to Codex, our AI assistant, and we're going to explain the bug and what we want to happen instead. Okay, so this prompt just says, I want you to look at the onboarding for the app. There's a screen that requests user permission. For microphone and speech, the actual system alerts for requesting these permissions do not appear until I press the record button on the next screen. These should appear after the allow button is pressed on the permission screen. So we're going to go and send that off, let it fix that, and then we'll test it. While that's working, I'm actually going to do a few of these at once just for time's sake, and you can do this as well, but we're just going to speed things along a little bit. So the next thing that we need to fix is to ensure the mood selection happens right after the first onboarding recording. So I'm in Claude because Claude works a little bit faster, and I'm going to explain that bug and how I wanted to fix it. So in Claude, I said there's a bug on one of the onboarding screens where mood selection happens. The journal entry is transcribed and analyzed by foundation models. Based on the analysis, a mood should be selected for the user. There's a working example of this on the new entry view. So when the analysis completes successfully, we should select the mood accordingly. And I've got this in plan mode just to show you kind of how that looks and how it works and what that looks like. I really like Claude plan mode. It's really great because it will tell you what it's planning to do before it does it. This prevents a lot of doing the wrong things, and you can understand better how the fix is going to work, and you can ask questions about it before it starts as well. So back in Codex, we have got some response here. So let's check this out. Tapping allow now launches a main actor task that sequentially requests microphone. Okay, so this is saying it basically fixed it and we just need to test it. And then let's review Claude's plan really quick. So it's going to fix the onboarding mood selection bug by mirroring the logic from new entry view model. Update that when it completes, it will select a mood. Perfect. So yeah, we're going to do that and auto accept edits. So it's going to go and fix that for us because that plan looks great. And then once we're done, we'll go and test both of those. Okay, Claude's done. It tried to build the project to see if there's any errors. I'm just skipping over that for now. Sometimes it's nice, sometimes it's just annoying. So we actually want to go to the simulator. We want to delete this so that we can actually see the onboarding of our app and test these onboarding fixes, right? So we're checking for the permissions that happens at the right spot. So we're going to track mood in the morning, allow microphone. See, that's what we expect, which is great. We can record a test journal entry where we're feeling really happy, and today's going to be a great day. Stop there. That worked. Continue. It's finding our mood. And let's see if there's an error here because I don't think it worked. Okay, so it did suggest happy, which is good. Oh, and it did select it. So maybe it was just a little bit slow. But this leads us right to the next bug. This should be more prominent. So we're going to go back to Claude. It works. Let's now improve the prominence and styling of the selected mood. I don't like how it currently works. Okay, so we know that works. Next on our list is let's just fix this really quick. It's just going to take a second to make that more prominent. So Claude is back with a plan. Update mood chip and onboarding flow to show selection state by adding the selected parameter. Adding visual indicators for selected moods. Okay. Update mood fit view to pass the selected mood. Okay, cool. Sounds like it's just going to be better. So we're going to just try it out and see. So in order to test that, we're going to need to delete the app again. So just a little preparation in anticipation of rerunning the app and going through onboarding one more time. And then once it's fixed, we'll test that out and move on to our next fix. So Claude's done with that change. We're going to rerun the app and see how this looks. It told us exactly what it did, but I want to see it visually. So we're going to go through this, allow test recording to let AI know I'm feeling very happy today. Perfect. Okay, so it does just take it a second. Maybe we should add some sort of loading state here to make it more prominent. And then the other thing I want to change is, did you notice how when we selected that, it went away immediately? Confusing, too fast. So we're going to make that change. Okay. I said, I think we should use a white border instead of a black one and add a loading modal to let the user know AI is detecting their mood. We also should not dismiss that screen when the user selects a mood. Instead, add a next call to action button underneath the mood options to take them to the paywall. These are just a few little revisions that I want to make in this experience, right? And this is a good example of me even getting into scope creep and letting the things slip, because this is something you can iterate and iterate and iterate on. But I do want this to be a good experience, and Claude's moving pretty fast, so we can get this done and improve the experience of our onboarding, right? Because you do definitely want to nail your onboarding. I would argue it's more crucial than some of our other features that we have, because this is your moneymaker. This is what's converting people to paying for your app, signing up for a trial, and giving them the first good impression of the app. They need a good impression within like the first 30 seconds or so to be more than likely to sign up for a trial and subscription. And that's how you're going to convert users. Okay, it's got a plan for us to change that border color. We're going to show the analysis overlay. And then the next button is going to be there instead of presenting the paywall as soon as we do that. It just all happens too fast, and I think we should slow it down a little bit. Not make the user feel rushed or confused. Okay, so for our next fix, we're going to be working on the paywall. The streak thing I'm going to leave for Claude because I want to, it's already got that context, but I do want Codex to help us with this next thing. So on the paywall, let's see, we're just going to do a new chat, and we're going to tell it what to fix about our paywall. So I just said that the annual option says no trial, which is not true. So let's just remove that part of the secondary text. And then Claude has made some changes for us for the onboarding. So we are going to do the good old delete the app and reinstall it to test that. But before we do need to let Codex, actually we might not need to. Let's just run and see if it runs. Sometimes if it's in the middle of making changes, your app's not going to build, but right now it's just searching for stuff, so it will run fine. Okay, back to onboarding. You can see how tedious this can be, but it's really worth the time that you spend to test this out and make sure it works as you expect. This is a journal entry where I'm feeling really happy, and this is going to be a great app that makes us a lot of money. Stop that, transcribe, finding your mood. Okay, so that mood analysis didn't appear here as we wanted, but this is selected. It probably could be more clear, but for sake of brevity, I'm leaving it as is. And now we have this next button. At least we have the next button disabled, which is a good indication the screen is loading something, but we want to make sure the modal actually appears on the screen. And it may not, because this is a sheet, is my guess. But we can change this without anything happening. Okay, that did say day one correctly, so no need to fix that. And then this wasn't changed because Codex was still in progress. So we are going to delete this, hopefully one last time, make those changes, and then come back to it. So I'm just telling Claude that let's ensure that the mood analysis overlay appears on the mood selection view. Be mindful of how views work if that view is a sheet, and then we'll send it into plan mode. Because sometimes if presenting modals like that on sheets doesn't work, if I remember correctly. So I'm just going to say, be aware of that if that's the reason, because I've also had it to where that was a bug before, and AI just did not pick up that you can't do that on a sheet or something like that. So just for putting some experience in there, just say, hey, be mindful of this so we don't run into this issue. And then once this is done, we'll be able to test both changes and then move on to some of the core feature polishes. Okay. Claude's changes are done, so we're going to rerun our app, hopefully for the last time as far as testing the onboarding goes, make a few more changes, and then wrap it up for tomorrow of preparing the screenshots. I'm going to go through onboarding one more time really quickly. This is a test journal entry where I feel really happy but a little bit stressed. This is just more testing of the AI to see, because there's two competing moods there, but see what one it comes out to be prominent. Okay, so it's analyzing the mood. Oh, and then it brought, that's great. That's totally fine. Okay, well, said we're happy. We're gonna go next. That's gonna happen. Then we're back here. That worked great. I didn't tell it to remove this text because I honestly forgot. So I'm just gonna go and do that manually really quick because it will be faster. So all you have to do is search for that text in the project of this annual plan or where that lives. So it's right under these options. So we can see that. and then that's probably the detail copy, and then here's the secondary action, which are these, and then there's something under that, which is the compliance. So there's the billing copy there, and we are just going to comment that out just in case it's wrong, and then we're going to rerun the app and see. So I'm not deleting it this time because I know we can see the same paywall and then another spot in our app, and that will allow us to check it fine. We can skip the onboarding. This is a test journal entry where I feel really happy. So it did bring us back to onboarding. I'm guessing because the has seen onboarding flag didn't get set because we didn't fully complete onboarding, which is fine. It'll allow us to test it and then get to the appropriate text was removed. It did show day 2 on the streak, which is incorrect, but we will fix that as part of the streaks thing. Perfect. So we're here. Got the paywall working. Great. Now on to the next group of fixes. We've done the paywall. We want to make sure that the entries count is correct. So I'm going to go back to Claude for this and explain the problem. 2 fixes we'll be working on. Claude is going to be tackling the streaks feature. So I said, now let's make sure our streaks is being counted correctly. Streaks should be a daily thing, not a per entry thing. So your streak should not increase for 2 entries on the same day. Issue with the entries count on the main tab of the app. Can you verify if that's set up correctly? Sometimes I saw a count of 2 right after completing onboarding when there should have just been 1. So I'm just going to identify that problem. We're solving these both side by side to see how quickly we can get through these polishes, and then we'll see if these both need fixing. So Claude has got a plan for us. Fix streak counting to only increment once per day. It looks like it's got some logic here to help us fix that. So I'm going to say that looks great and go ahead and do that. So Claude has gone and fixed that for us. We'll test it after Codex is done, but we're going to set Claude up on the next task. The next thing we want to do is remove the placeholder dots on future days in the calendar. So just very simple prompt. Let's remove the placeholder move dots for days in the future on the calendar screen. If the day is in the future, let's show no dot, just to make sure we're extra clear there while Codex is still working. So real quickly, you can see the differences between using different agents, right? And pros and cons. Codex is super accurate. It's very thorough when it's searching for solutions, and it will often catch mistakes that it's made on its own and fix them. And it's really comprehensive. It's a really smart model. Claude is also really great for coding Swift UI. It's much faster, but it's not quite as thorough as Codex. And it uses way more tokens, so you just tend to run into your limits faster. So reviewing Claude's plan, it says the mood dot shows a gray placeholder for days future with no entries. Solution, we're going to update the computed property to make it clear, which is great. Very easy change to make. So we're going to let those continue to run and go on to our next fixes. Okay, Claude has given us a breakdown of what it should look like. So it's a future day. There's no entries, so there's no dot. Past day, today with no entries, no dot. The gray dot with border if the day is locked, and then there's a mood color dot with an entry and it's unlocked. I don't know if we should ever hit this scenario, but that sounds fine to me. So the next thing on our list is to make sure that the restore purchase button works. So I'm going to do a new chat in Claude, and I'm going to tell it we should make sure that restore purchase button is working on the paywall. So I just want it to review the onboarding paywall and ensure that the restore purchase button is actually set up to work with Revenue Cat. So it's going to go check that out and let us know if it's actually broken or if it just doesn't work in our testing environment. Meanwhile, you can see 5 minutes in, Codex is still working on the bug that we gave it, but it is making active progress just to check on the actual entries count. Reviewing the code, the restore purchase button is already properly set up with Revenue. Okay, so we don't need any changes there. So the next thing that on our list is these items here. What we're going to tackle is the edit entries. So I want users to be able to edit entries that are on the same day only. We want to add a feature that allows users to edit journal entries if they are on the same day as the day they were created. Users should not be able to edit entries in the past. So make a plan to do that. Codex is explaining what it did here. So it propagated the new post save journal count from new entry view model. So create entry now forwards the exact total instead of relying on a blind increment. So now we're actually counting things, which we weren't before, which is problematic, but we didn't know because we didn't code it ourselves. The next is threaded the update callback through the main recording flow and onboarding. So both paths deliver the same count data back into navigation, which is great. It just means it's going to be more cohesive on how that works. You can see Claude's already done with its plan as we're reading this. And then, okay, so it's just more thorough, is basically what I'm saying, which sounds great. So now Claude's plan to add the edit feature is over here. It says it will add the ability for users to edit journal entries only on the same day they were created. Added computed property. See if we can edit. The edit button shows next to the transcript. If they're allowed to edit, they can edit with text editor for transcript editing. Save and cancel. Cool. Okay, that seems pretty good. We're going to go ahead and auto accept edits, and that is going to take care of that for us. These next things are bigger things that I think we're going to leave for later. So that is reworking the or type instead, flow. Although it doesn't make perfect sense right now, it's totally fine. I mean, it's not breaking anything. There's no bugs there. It just shows where they can type, which is fine. And then we may make that cohesive though. The more I think about it, we might just want to make that cohesive real quickly because Claude's moving pretty fast. And then improving the stats screen to make it more useful. I mean, that's pretty general. I mean, it's my own note, but it's more general. I just want to decrease the space here, which I may just do manually really quick while Claude is working. So I'm going to go into this. I'm going to find the streak home view. Okay, and it looks like we need to be in streak hero view. That's like kind of the top section. And we want a preview for this so we can just see what's going on without having to build the app. Because sometimes when we're using text like this and it's super large, there's like unaccounted for space, and that may be why we're seeing that extra space. The other hard thing about doing this right is Claude is actively coding in here. So there's going to be things that are broken for a second where we can actually build. So I have a feeling AI is going to take a long time to make this small adjustment. So I'm going to not have AI do this one just because I know it would just take us a second. Cool. So I added that, which is great. Seems like this is, we've got an error. So I'm going to copy this, give it to Claude, put it in plan mode. Just let it know there's an error that we need to fix. Okay. It's just going to allow us to edit that transcript, which should be fine. This is kind of a big feature that we're adding. So we are going to want to be sure to test this before we release. A lot of the other fixes are small and visual, still worth testing, but not as big as this one. So make sure definitely to test when you make changes like this. Okay, so we now should be able to edit our journal entries within the same day. Here we see this hero section way too big, so I'm going to just put a border on this. Just do .red just to see where that text is. Okay, it is not as big as I thought, so we're going to move that, put it here, and see. Okay, so we just need to basically reduce the space of this by like to 5 or 0. Okay, that's a little bit better. Is there padding somewhere that I'm not seeing? Not necessarily, other than just this frame of this circle. So what we'll do is just do an offset, and we're going to make it Y at -10, -20. See how that looks? Too big. Okay. -10. And I'm going to apply that same thing here. So there's in line. Just scoot it a little bit closer, which is honestly kind of bothering me. Okay. So now we should be able to run this. Got that fix out of the way. Now we should be able to edit entries, and that's pretty much it for our real polish, right? So we made this today. I should be able to edit this. Okay. Test. Save. Perfect. That worked. The only thing I don't like is this yellow button should not be yellow. That should be our blue button. So I'm going to do that manually as well to make it save or quick. So journal entry, entry detail sheet. That's what we're looking for. So the save button should be whisper primary. I'm assuming the primary button is our blue button that we're using, and that's what I think should be used for editing this. Yep, perfect. Now that's blue. We know editing works. We know we can change the mood. We know we can save that, and it works. Cool. So now our app is much more polished and much more ready for the App Store. We've caught some bugs. We've made it look a little bit nicer. We could still continue to improve this, but it does work. And so I'm going to leave it as is for now. As much as it bothers me, this is me showing restraint and not letting things creep too much out of scope, right? Because this feature serves its purpose. It can be much better. We do need notifications, but we don't need them super crucial. So I'm going to spend some time considering if I want to have one more day reworking the streak before we send it to the App Store, or if we should spend our time doing screenshots and just getting it submitted. But that wraps it up for this video. Now you can see why it's important to test your app keep a running list as you're working. So this is a very focused session, right? In just about an hour, we got all these things fixed and improved in our app, and it is a much better app for it. It's going to be way less jarring for the user. There's going to be less that bothers us about our own app, which I think is an added bonus. And we were very focused, right? If it's not on our list, we're not doing it for the most part. We broke the rules a little bit, and we still have a list of things that we are going to continue working on to keep our momentum going later, but we have a shippable app. If you are interested in more detailed breakdowns, hands-on help, and being inside of a community of builders, you should check out my community App Launch Club, where I've got the full roadmap to take you from idea to App Store in 14 days and get you on the road to being a full-time indie developer. I am working on building up more resources so you have everything you need to become a full-time indie developer. So check that out, get your app launched, and I'll see you in the next one.